Yeah, I have thought this through, and I think it's a brilliant question, not least of all because I think I have a really good answer. And that is that Trump is quieting the to his right, to the right of him, the sort of the Tucker faction of MAGA, who are saying that he is enthralled to Bibi, that he's marching to Bibi's Torah, so to speak, which is a Jewish kind of Jewish dance. So, I'm trying to make a joke here. In other words, he's saying, hey, what's the word I'm looking for? I cursed him out. I bawled him out. I scolded Bibi. See, I'm not marching to Bibi's tune. That's what I think. I think probably Trump.
So you think that was leaked by the White House purposely in order to appease the conservatives?
Absolutely.
That's an interesting observation.
Yeah.
By the way, thank you for that, Norm. I will say this since Norm brings up Tucker Carlson. It gives me an opportunity to say that YouGov, YOU.gov, is that what it is? How it's done? No, it's not .gov. YouGov, isn't that the name of the organization? They did a poll released today of populist people and their influence and their the perception people have of them. The person most trusted on their list was the Pope. The person least trusted on their list was Tucker Carlson. So I think that's an indication that things may be moving in the correct direction. Howard, followed by Dr.
Hey Gary, everyone. Go to Dr. Gary. I've got a couple things going on right now, so I'll continue to listen.
Okay, Doctor, followed by David. Doctor, Miss MD, or Mr. MD, can you tell me what's ailing me? David, followed by Merrill.
Gary, an interesting segue on the sexual proclivities of the president. Recall in the '60s, it was John F. Kennedy who was apparently a Lothario of sorts.
Yeah, John F. Kennedy. He couldn't lead. He was screwing a movie star, and she wasn't a porn star. But come on, let's face it, Marilyn Monroe. Whoopie-doo. What talent did she really have other than her boobs? Come on.
Well, I mean, but this is a guy who faced down the Soviets and Cuba.
Impossible. He was having a relationship with Marilyn Monroe. How could that be?
Anyway, I'm not
condoning it either, but to presume that a person, if they are attracted to a sexually expressive individual, has bad judgment, maybe that is bad judgment, but other people might think that was really good judgment, depending on their perspective. So it has nothing to do with your ability to lead or not, in my opinion, but there are probably those who agree with the caller who says that there's some kind of cause and effect between the president's inability to lead in the manner in which she wishes that he would, and the fact that he has a high libido. Probably she feels that, and other people probably agree. I recognize other people would agree with her comment.
Yeah, and the press sort of gave presidents back then a kind of a professional courtesy with regard to their personal lives. You mentioned the way the press wouldn't disclose FDR's, polio or his disability, not being able to walk or stand.
Nobody talked about Babe Ruth and his proclivities because, not just when it came to females, but when it came to drinking, they protected the Babe because he was kind of an icon, and by the way, he was still the Babe when he got up to the plate, and that's all anybody cared about. They didn't care that he was, and Joe Namath, Broadway Joe Namath. For God's sakes, I'll bring him on here someday because I have a source. I could bring him on, and he'll tell you to our face how he was, running through every woman he could get his hands on when the Jets were flying high. And so that didn't stop him. Of course, he wasn't a leader of the free world, but it didn't stop him from making important judgment decisions on a split second on the football field. For gosh sakes, I'm not saying that it was behavior that one should be proud of. I'm just saying, what does one have to do with the other? I don't get the argument.
Well, yeah, it's how one treats the fair opposite sex. It's more important than what she does for a living or whatever. But that aside, I think definitely that the midnight tweets, Trump's really becoming unhinged. Uh, whether or not Norm's comments are speaking to a pandering to the right, that I've got this BB guy under control, that I'm going to take him down a notch. I think ultimately he's got to be frustrated and angry, Gary, because he's not a strategist. He's not an operative. He's not. I had this debate with Marshall on the stage about his lack of militarism and his understanding of that, and he's really counting on. And this kind of pokes to this mythology that the IDF and with our intelligence and Israelis' intelligence that we can best any foe on the planet. I think some of that was bought hook, line, and sinker in the war room, in the situation room when he's talking to Bibi. And I think Trump really thought that I'm getting sound advice, and I'm going to be the big victor. I'm going to be the big celebrity here when I bring the IRGC to heel. And that hasn't happened. In fact, we've seen just the exact opposite of that. So, it's fodder for the right. It's fodder for the MAGA folks. It's fodder for, and the right wing is very important here, Gary, because, Israel is counting on our legislature. They tilted more rightward versus leftward because of, some of the things we've talked about in Rome. They're counting on the right for continued support of Israel. But if that fever breaks and these talk show guys start winning the arguments, and then the politicians have to somehow say to Trump, "Listen, Trump, I got to win next year, and midterms are coming up." Somebody has to fall on the sword, Gary. Is Bibi going to fall on the sword over this, or is Trump going to fall on the sword? And I don't think Trump has the ego to say, "Hey, I made a big mistake here. This is your fault, Bibi. You talked me into this." And whether or not that gets aired out in a way that is, private or, more behind the scenes, or if it needs to be public because of the voices are starting to grow louder and louder in this country, it's kind of a no-win situation. And I think the apex of our relationship is really front and center with regard to how we get out of this mess with Iran now. And can we do it gracefully? And can we get more wins out of the situation? They're talking about Bibi playing spoiler here with regard to Lebanon. That while we're trying to promote peace, he's bombing the shit out of Lebanon and going after his enemies there, which is an anthem to what we're trying to achieve with Iran, because we have a big investment over there. So it's not a united front on some level, Gary. I think we got to get that situated somehow. So and to be honest, Gary, Trump's the crazy one here, and it's not Bibi. Bibi's saying, "Hey, I got a crazy guy here. How do I control him?" And I think at the end of the day, that's the problem here, is that we're dealing with a guy that's, again, unhinged. Look at the tweets. He's out of control. He's probably saying, "I'm not cutting the deals that I thought I was going to be able to cut." He cut deals before this incursion with the Gulf states. You got a $400 million airplane. You got a $1 trillion investment by the Saudis. You're seeing a lot of that money dry up. You're seeing the Saudis back away from some investments and ventures that they were behind, like the Live Golf organization. They pulled out of that. And so there's been a shuffling of the deck. UAE falling out of OPEC. So that's my analysis, and MAGA's going to have to do something to figure out who they have here, because the midterms are coming up very fast. The oil prices are continuing to rise, and nobody believes that there are peace talks. And I'll end.
nobody believes that they're peace talks. I think there are indications that they've even used the term texting. So maybe they're peace texts that's going on right now. I don't know. But what do you think? And I don't know that you were in the room when I quoted a retired Israeli military intelligence officer who's an American and who is a huge Trump supporter, has been, and who is MAGA all the way, and who now says he's angry as could be with the president for not finishing the job in Iran, and that, basically he's saying what Bolton and General Kane are saying and what Bibi Netanyahu is saying is the proper way to go, and he doesn't have the fortitude because he's listening to too many people and he's concerned about the midterms so much that he's backing off, and this guy is really angry with the president. What do you think of that analysis?
Well, that's a person who has absolute confidence. If President Trump was decisive to take boots to the ground, he's a guy that's absolutely confident we could finish the job. That's is that American hubris talking? Is that a guy that understands how strong our military is? I mean, we've had to draw down on assets. I mean, from Korea, South Korea, we've had to draw down assets elsewhere. We've burned through quite a bit of military firepower doing what we've done so far. Supposedly we're out of the Patriot missiles. We need to rearm that up. So I don't know. I don't know what this guy's privy to here in terms of intel. Like I said, we had a family friend who was in the CIA, and he never really got out of it. And anytime there was a situation, I think we had a family friend who had a missing persons issue, and he was able to make phone calls and do some help there. So, maybe we could have finished the job, but the appetite, when the first 500 to 1,000 deaths come home or more, depending on how much we lose in that first round of boots, I mean, who's going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for that politically? So I think at the end of the day, he promised and he campaigned and he got those votes from those core supporters, no more foreign wars. And I think Bibi's miscalculated on how strong and how Israel supportive we are at the expense of that. And I don't think at the end of the day, they calculated that pushback as severe as they did. And the big losers, Gary, is Allen's people and the people in Iran that are suffering under the weight of all this, and the ones that are in prison sitting out these bogus trials and bullshit kangaroo courts, and their economy is constantly continuing to suffer. So, they're the biggest losers in all this, and, I don't think we put together the coalition as strong as we could have. I mean, arguably the Kurds were supposed to also come in and start fighting on our behalf. That didn't happen. And so, it was a rush. It was a miscalculation. They thought it was going to be Venezuela 2.0, and we haven't been able to pull it off. So under that scenario. So, but Gary, I don't know, man. Somebody's telling him don't go put boots on the ground, and it's those MAGA influencers that are probably in his ear, and they're probably going to wait till after the midterms, if anything. I don't know. It's a good question.
Thank you, David. By the way, in my conversations with these people, there's been no discussion of boots on the ground. I just want to point that out. Meryl, followed by Ben.
Porn star first, or is that just guy talk?
What's that?
Should I talk about the porn star first issue, or
Hey, it was
just guy
brought
talk?
up by a female, not by a male. I just responded to what she had to say. So it's an equal opportunity discussion for all genders.
You just compare Joe Namath to Trump. Okay. No, you don't call. He was reelected, so, but it is not smart. When you are a leader, it is not smart. it's not smart to have affairs, period, whether, even though we know that goes against the nature of men. We know all about that stuff.
I didn't say it was smart. I just said to presume that if a guy has a relationship with a porn star, that he doesn't have the skills to make proper decisions and therefore is disqualified from being president of the United States. And I acknowledge that there's some people who would agree with that position, but to me it seems pretty absurd. I don't see a cause and effect, but maybe you.
I see the idea that a person can be blackmailed. I see this different things that can happen. I see the idea that if he's married, that becomes an issue. Things like that. That's all. That's all.
Well, so does that disqualify a gay guy from running for office because maybe he might get this blackmailed? I mean, people get blackmailed for all kinds of reasons.
I don't think. See, now I think that's a bad issue to bring up because I don't think that we're not going to have a gay president because we're not nice enough. We're not decent enough.
Yeah, but that's not the question. That's not the question. That's not the question. People do things that they can be blackmailed for all the time. It's not just because. And if they're open about the fact that they're having a relationship with somebody who happens to be the star in the big screen.
We're talking about the president. We're talking about leaders. We're not talking about private people. We're talking about leaders. It's not a good idea.
Sure. So fine, I agree with that. And maybe based on morality and ethics, one would say this is a reason not to vote for a person. But to suggest because a person had an affair with a stripper makes him disqualified for being president of the United States, I will guarantee you he's not the only one. I knew a woman who was a former high-class hooker in Washington, D.C., and I wanted to write a book with her, and she was afraid to do it. All the powerful men who crossed her threshold, many powerful men, both Republican and Democrat. So maybe all of them are disqualified from their position because they were visiting this hooker. I don't know.
No one's saying that. I'm speaking specifically about the president. I thought that's what she meant. That it's not smart. It's not smart politically. It's not smart. It's just not. Period. It might be fun and it might be natural, but that does, and I'm not going to say a porn star's not smart because Stormy Daniels was damn smart. She's damn smart. She's put together quite a career for herself. She's a business person, so I wouldn't say that about that.
The president thought she was put together pretty good.
Yeah, but she also, now see, here you get something though. She also revealed something about him that is like.
Yeah, I don't want to get into that. We're not going to talk about his anatomy.
Okay, there you go. That's just another reason why it wasn't smart. Okay, now on the phone conversation, my first reaction truly was, bearing in mind that we have been told that one of the problems that Trump has had is that he is being blamed. They're saying that Israel talked him into this. Bibi talked him into doing this. And Bibi is got some people who are saying you're doing what America tells you to do. You're doing what Trump tells you to do. I don't know how bad that seems for Bibi, but it is not boded well for Trump. Because, and we see there's a lot of people, unfortunately, that are anti-Israel right now, and that troubles me a lot. But it's true, and Trump cares very much about what people say, and for whatever reason, his poll numbers are going down, and it would not surprise me if the White House, it wouldn't have surprised me if the whole thing was even made up. It wouldn't have surprised me if the White House made up a story and leaked it and said that Trump had this conversation with him to make it look like that Bibi's doing something that Trump doesn't approve of. And Trump's not going along with it. That was my first reaction, is I wonder if this is true, and I wonder if this was a made-up story by Trump. And if not, then it would be then only, I wouldn't find it logical that Bibi would do something unless he and Trump are at odds. about things. If they've had some conversations and it's not boding well between them, the two of them, they're, one is one over, here's Trump saying, I need this peace plan. I need it now. And you got to stop doing what you're doing. That might be an issue between them. And Bibi might just be saying, the heck with this. I have to do what's good for his country. And Trump is being Trump. So the only way I would find it, if Trump called him up and was swearing at him, um, it's got to be because the two of them are at odds about something. It's not about him. It's not about Israel and Lebanon. It's about Israel and Lebanon now. Can't you wait? Can't you wait till I get my peace deal? I don't know. But my first reaction was I thought it was a made-up story. But I thought it was made up by the White House, by Trump. He wanted it leaked so that he could say, I don't do what Bibi tells me to do. He does what, that he was angry about it. That's what I was thinking.
What I'm thinking is that there's great hope for a peace in the Middle East. And the reason I say that is you just articulated what Norm said. And if Norm and Meryl can agree on something, anything is possible.
Wait, back that up. Did I agree with him? Really?
Yeah, he just was on the stage and said.
I got to change my mind. I got to change my mind. Please.
By the way, you said that the president said, or were you trying to say, you may have misspoke, that people are claiming that the president is being controlled by Bibi. You actually, the words you used were that Trump has said that Bibi talked him into it. Is that what you meant to say?
No. The original story was that Bibi came in and made his presentation. Then Trump met with General Kane and met with Marco Rubio, that people said why they thought that it would not be over in 4 weeks, that they gave him advice and he chose not to follow it. I don't know that he followed the advice of Bibi, that he did it because it was Bibi or because it's Trump. And I personally blame Trump, that it's Trump who listens to this and listens to that and then says, no, my gut decision is this. And then he just does. And I'm not saying.
I just wanted to clear that record because I thought you had misspoke yourself. So the president actually posted to Truth Social when this issue was raised. Israel never talked me into the war with Iran. The results of October 7th added to my lifelong opinion that Iran can never have a nuclear weapon. Did. And maybe grammatically a little off base. But maybe Stormy Daniels helped him write it, and that's why it's off base a little bit.
No, but Trump has taken. But unfortunately, there are people that are so anti-Israel right now, and Trump hears that, and people are bringing that in his ear also.
Yeah, but as I pointed out here, I actually quoted him. I went back and I researched and I quoted him all the times that he went as a private citizen, long before he announced any candidacy for office. And he went on national television at least 3 or 4 times that I cited, including with Barbara Walters and I can't remember who the other people he was on with right at the moment. And he said that Iran cannot be have a nuclear weapon. That has consistently been his position. So if anybody has been listening to him for all these years, they would know that that is absolutely true, that has been long before any association he had with Bibi Netanyahu. That has been Donald Trump's position, and he is consistent about that.
Well, one thing I would say, though, is that the problem he has now, I think you could say that Iran's can't have a nuclear weapon. I feel sorry for the next person who's going to be president, because I don't see Trump being able to get a deal that will prevent them from having a nuclear weapon in 5 years.
See, here's the thing. A lot of people would say nobody can make a deal with Iran to eliminate its nuclear weapons. The President Obama tried with the JCPOA, but it was not a guarantee. It kicked the can down a little bit, and it did retard their weapons program. But a lot of people believe that it's meaningless to negotiate with these guys because sooner or later, no matter what they agree to do, they're going to build a nuclear weapon. So the argument that is made, and I think Alan has made this often, and Alan, if I'm misrepresenting you, please correct me, and that is now finally there was an opportunity to maybe make it possible that the issue could be forced, and then the president backed off for whatever reason and went back to negotiations, which on the face of it we all want. We don't want war. We don't want people dying. But if negotiations cannot affect the necessary removal of nuclear weapons from Iran, then it has to be done with the fist, not with the texting. And so that's the part of the equation that we have to think about. Whether you agree with it or not, there are people who believe that, including folks who are in a position of knowing what's going on in Iran with that regime and what effect the war has had on that regime, which I don't pretend to know, but they do. And they believe that Iran was on the ropes, and if they just kept the pressure up, you heard it from John Bolton. You may not like it because it's coming from John Bolton. You heard it from General Kane. And, now you're hearing it from a couple of my sources who I'm not going to name, but I'm their proxy. And that's what they believe. And it's something to consider.
I listen to retired generals, people that were involved in intelligence, and they know Iran, and they are all saying the same thing. They are saying there's no way you can do it without boots on the ground. They're saying you've already tactically won this war. You've done, you can bomb and bomb and bomb and bomb and bomb. That's not going to get you what you want, and it does involve boots on the ground. And I think Trump was told that. I think he made a decision and then got scared about that decision.
Well, let me jump ahead and skip over Ben and go to Amir. Amir, I want to ask you specifically, please, sir. What if the Israeli program of whack-a-mole had continued? In other words, every time a new leader pops up, they get him. Another leader pops up, they get him. Another leader pops up, they get him. Would that not destabilize the regime to the point where they would acquiesce to the demand that the nuclear weapons be turned over, or not, Amir?
Gary and everyone else. I think that is the strategy that will be pursued. I actually have quite a bit to say when it comes to my turn, but specifically to this question, I think it is going to be layer by layer until you get a layer that is going to agree to the demands of Donald Trump. And those demands are very clear. He calls it, Iran will never have nuclear weapon, but what he actually means is that he wants all the enriched uraniums, the 60% plus, which is now actually not just 60%, it's 50%, 40%. They're talking about 10,000 kilos, 10 ton of this stuff they're talking about. Okay? He wants all the enrichment facilities completely demolished. He wants the missiles range to be reined in, and he wants the proxies not to be supported. Now, that kind of thing only requires a layer of government within Iran that is going to change the complete strategy of the country, and 180 degrees. That's your specific. That's a specific answer to your question, Gary.
And I think the people I've talked to today are frustrated that remember, it was the Israelis that was going after the leaderships. It It was Israelis that had Mossad in country, and they were killing people in their apartments, and there was no collateral damage, as they say. I hate that term, but innocent civilians were not killed in the process. They were very specific, very smart, specific attacks that were occurring. And then when the joint operation started, it was the Israelis going after the heads of state and their and the folks around them. The same way they went after Hamas and Hezbollah. And that's the Israeli way of doing things. And the guys that I talk to now, I realize they're saying it from an Israeli perspective, they're frustrated that the president put the reins in on that program. They believe, and look, the Israelis have the folks on the ground right now in Iran. We all know this. I'm not saying anything that has not already been revealed. They know what's going on, in all likelihood, in the inner circle of the Iranian regime are Mossad spies. And the Iranians know that. They don't even know who to trust. That's why when they send messages to the new supreme leader, Baby Khamenei, they do it through courier and they switch them up. It's not just one, take a message, Garcia. It's a bunch of runners that they run it through so that it can't be traced back to where he is in hiding because they're afraid he's going to be the next one to be eliminated. I think that if Bibi had his way, this would have been over by now without putting boots on the ground. Now, I could be wrong. I'm not a
No,
military
you're not
strategist.
wrong. Don't say that, Gary. You're not wrong. You're absolutely right. As Mr. Amir said, this operation had to be layer by layer by layer. The 12 days hit by Israel, it was so significant. This regime didn't lose his head from his ass. And we didn't need any boots on the ground. You had 80 million people. There was 1 million people that were dancing on the streets of Tehran the day Khamenei got hit. Come on. There was no place in the history this thing happened. We didn't need any put. Iranian, they would do the job. But right in the middle of this most sensitive time, all of a sudden you hear ceasefire. Ceasefire. What did it get us? The Strait of Hormuz got shut down. Kuwait got hit. Qatar got hit. And the rest is all history. You all know. Why? The same thing you're saying, Gary, 8 million Iranian, they were thinking and was saying, what happened? We were just doing it. Because the Basij, they were lost. We don't have enough, we don't have an army. It's all bullshit when they say army, we have 2 million people army. No, they don't have it. And then all of a sudden everything is stopped and regroup. And now we're all talking about peace talk. There is no peace in here. It's all blood. Every single of them. And you said it the other day. How come in the part of peace, it's not any restriction to Iranian regime to stop killing the innocent people? How come that's not part of the whole equation? It's all about money. Amir hit it right hit the nail on the coffin, and also you did.
So, if one were to take that position, that what you just said is accurate, then I would suggest that perhaps it would have been better if Iran, if the president did listen to Bibi Netanyahu. It might have been a different outcome. I don't know that it would be a different outcome, by the way. I have no way of knowing. But I'm just saying, this is what these guys are telling me, and this seems to be what Alan and Amir are suggesting as well. Meryl, do you have anything else? Because I'm going to let Amir get the last word in here, it looks like.
Yes, to say.
What's that? I think she's...
No, I said I'm fine. I'd like to hear what he has to say.
good. Yeah, you were not coming through there for a second. You're fine now. Amir, it's all yours.
I just have to say that there was certainly an element of surprise in the initial attack. They did think that this would be finished very quickly, and it does take quite a. I mean, basically what Iran proved is that they have this matrix management or mosaic type of management in the military, and they call it atash be ikhtiyar, and by basically what that means is that every group can have their own little organization, and they can fire at will, and that is going to make it very difficult to sort of to assume that you can hit the layer at the top and everything will fall. So that is where I think Trump disagreed with. That was the reason that he disagreed with Netanyahu, and he said, let's pull it back because this is not working, and then he started negotiations. Now I think probably Netanyahu is going to carry on doing that without Trump involvement directly. So I'd like to just make a couple of comments, if I may, on the discussions that we had.
Sure.
That's great. I appreciate it. Thank you, Gary. First comment is regarding the politicians' relationship, with a woman or a man for that matter, of a sexual nature. I think it really is only related to his sexual tendencies and has absolutely nothing to do with his or her ability to be a president or a prime minister. I mean, we have a saying that what goes on between the sheets really does not matter one iota in terms of what they do in running of the country. The only time that it becomes a problem is that if the wife or the husband finds out, and then there is actually a conflict internally, and that could then potentially affect it. But the actual act of sexual activity with another person shouldn't really matter. That's my view. That aside, the answer to your question, to your specific question, Gary, is I think yes, he did probably say that to Netanyahu, but I think he said it tongue in cheek. He said it like the way I say it to my friends. You're fucking crazy. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I would imagine that he would say. It's not going to be in a serious stance. I don't believe. Now, the question of finishing the job, really, with regards to Iran, I think that is, as I said, there was obviously miscalculation on behalf of Netanyahu and Trump, thinking that it would just be over within a few days, and that didn't happen. And basically, my question, I guess my question is to you, Gary. Do you think seriously that Iran is going to part with their 60% enriched uranium and their
Not unless it's at the point of a gun.
Fine. It has cost them over $1 trillion to get here. Okay, so that's very important to understand that these guys are not going to part with that. They're just not. I mean, negotiations in total is a red herring. The negotiation that one side says, give me everything that's cost you $1 trillion and I give you 18 billion back, is a ridiculous stance. It's just a non-starter. How do you negotiate with something like that? I mean, this is the whole thing. I think the whole thing is the negotiation and bringing in Netanyahu and all the rest of it is a red herring.